Let's talk writing process. More specifically, the fact that there's more than one way to write a book. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. If someone says there is a singular way of getting a book written, they are flat out wrong. I, personally, have completely revamped my writing process a number of times over the years. I used to write in a completely linear fashion. I would start with chapter 1. Then I would work straight on through until I got the chapter done. After that, I would start chapter 2, and so on and so forth. That's a pretty common way of doing things. If it works for you, keep at it. The problem that I would run into is that I would get stuck sometimes trying to come up with the right phrasing for a sentence, or I couldn't get a particular paragraph to flow very well, and it would grind my creative process to a halt until I could get things right. Guess what? It can be pretty frustrating staring at the same couple of sentences for a half an hour straight. It also torpedoes your productivity. So, I started researching alternate means of writing a book, especially since I wound up getting bogged down every few chapters, or worse, every single chapter. After running a whole bunch of tests and trying out all sorts of new things, I am using a wildly different process now. These days, I jump all over the place. Sometimes I'll start writing in the middle of the book. Other times, I will write the ending first. Occasionally, I'll begin with chapter 1. It all depends what passage happens to be the easiest for me to write. For example, on day 1 of working on a new book, I'll open up my word processor and start scribbling down my ideas as quickly as possible. Could be a few lines of dialogue in one scene, or a plot point in another, or a descriptive passage that comes to mind. I will go all the way through my book, just scribbling away, trying to stay as stream of consciousness as possible. The key is to not let myself get bogged down. Each time that I feel the need to stop and refine a sentence, I instead skip ahead to the next scene. This initial exercise is just about getting words written. I then go back in later, the next day, or the following week, and fill in the details. If this process sounds maddening to you, you're not alone. I've had authors tell me they could never write that way, and maybe they couldn't. On the flip side, after doing things my way, I could never imagine going back to writing books in a linear fashion again. Why am I telling you this exactly? Because even though I just described two incredibly dissimilar writing styles, they have both produced finished books. If you take anything away from this talk, it is this: it doesn't matter how your book gets written, it only matters that it gets finished. Your readers want a good story, and if you do your job right, they won't be able to tell which process you used to get the words down on the page. If you want to be as productive as possible, you need to figure out which process works best for you. It might be the one of the styles that I just described, or it could involve taking a completely different approach. If it works for you, keep doing it. If you're having productivity problems, however, try something else. Just remember, the most important thing is to get the words written by any means necessary. Now, before you go, I want to tell you about a free mini guide that I'm giving out. It's called The Top Mistakes That Self-Publishers Make. You can click on the link in the description of the video to claim your copy now.